G'day guys, so in this video we're going to make some floating structures. But before we get into this video, I must address the terms of service, which says no floating structures. Well, the reason that's on there is because of this. Back just before game release, the devs played around with the ramps and they broke them. So a ramp would hold another ramp up and vice versa. So when you demolish everything beneath it, it'd stay stuck up there. So my tri-mate Wyatt made this back before game release, and it's still up in the end today. If it was made back then, it still hovers there now. You can't do that anymore, it's been patched. It is still possible to do something similar, so I made this a couple of days ago. It's up in the air, and there's nothing beneath it holding it up. So this will be a dev wiper fence. Don't do this. That's not what this video is about, and I'm not going to show you how to do this. In this video I'm rather going to show how to create disjointed structures where the binding point is still on the ground, and hopefully you won't get dev wiped. So now in the previous video I used a floating ceiling for the spotter tower on top of the dimorphodon dispenser. It was made like this to create an unobstructed 360-degree vision for the spotter. But I failed to show how it was made, so this video is to rectify that. It's really quite simple, so chuck a foundation down, build a wall up, and a ceiling on top. You've probably done this 100 times already, but failed to realise what you've done. Try and place a fence foundation on the foundation beneath it, and it jumps up to the ceiling. Demolish the wall, and it'll remain floating up there. So that's exactly how it was done. Just place a fence foundation on a foundation or a ceiling underneath the ceiling. You can make it higher. So 2 walls up this time, and I'll do exactly the same thing. Attempt to place a fence foundation on the foundation, and it jumps to the top. It's bound to the foundation beneath it, but it holds the ceiling up. Okay, so that's 2 walls high, and that's as high as you can go with just walls. I'll try and make it 3 walls high. And now it won't jump up, it'll just go straight on the foundation. Okay, so there is a way of getting it a little bit higher though. Foundation down and 2 walls up. And a ceiling like before. And now I'm going to stack some crop plots. So if you don't know how to do that by now, just stretch it out as far as you can in front of you and place them down. They'll stack on top of each other. Only works with large crop plots. So now I'm just going to do that on top of the ceiling. You can use a maximum of 5 crop plots. So you can use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So using crop plots you can set a ceiling at any level up to this point. If I use the ceiling 1 square lower, I could use like 8 crop plots to get a different level. But this is the maximum height above the binding point, which is the foundation beneath it. So attempting to put a fence foundation on the foundation, it jumps to the top of the crop plots. And the fence foundation stays there, so to get a ceiling on that, just build a wall up and a wall down. Build a ceiling out, then get rid of those walls. And that's the maximum height you can levitate a ceiling above its binding point, whether it's a foundation or a ceiling. So as I said, it doesn't have to be a foundation, we can just build a ceiling. Another ceiling above that, up to 2 squares higher. And that'll stay there. And now that's bound to the ceiling rather than the foundation. So if I demo that ceiling, it will all come down, and the same goes for those bound to the foundation. Anyway, so what possible use is this? So in the previous video, I used it in the spotting tower. So it's useful when you need to maintain a 360-degree line of sight. So this is what I call a totem pole, with its stacked plants on top of each other. So I'll make one of these structures, make sure it's all done in the same order as what I'm doing it here. It's quite important. So I wall up, the ceiling out. Use a wood ceiling, you can't use thatch, it doesn't work as well, or at all. Now place your foundation down and let it jump to the top. You only need one, but I use 4 for aesthetic reasons. Now place your next wall up. Make sure it's right at the back, not off the fence foundation. Now the crop plot, make sure you push it as far forward as possible. Otherwise you'll obstruct your ladder. Now replace the wood ceiling with arch frame. And repeat the process as many times as you want. I'll just make this one 3 ceilings high. Make sure you duck before grabbing onto the ladder. That means you'll duck when you jump off the ladder, and you'll be able to fit between the ceiling and the crop plot. As I said before, order is important. You must place the fence foundations on the hatch frame, not a ceiling. So don't make it then try and convert them to hatch frames later. So I'll just do it once more. Duck to grab the ladder, so you're ducking when you jump off. And I'll place the final crop plot on top. So now you've got a stack of floating hatch frames with crop plots on them. So seed fertilise it and remove the supporting structure. So get rid of the ladder and the walls. Yes, crop plots are transparent from the bottom. And the reason we've used hatch frames is, of course, so they catch the rain. So when it rains, it'll filter down through all the crop plots and water them all. So you can see the top one's getting water. And normally if you use ceilings, the bottom ones won't. And so's the bottom one. So no irrigation's required if it's outside. Anyway, so why would you actually want to do that? Well, you wouldn't always want to do that. But if the situation calls for it, and you don't have much space, and you need to cover a full 360-degree radius, then you want all the plants to open up at the same time. So there's a very fine line between none firing and them all firing. It does offer some protection to the plants, so this Tech Rex can't hit the plants, but it can hit the crop plots, which are a fair bit stronger than plants. So this build only had one wall between the different levels. And yes, it does obstruct the upward arc of fire. So you can see there the bottom two turned off and only the top one's firing. You can improve that by widening the gap. So this one has a gap of 2 walls and its upward arc of fire is really quite good. So at this angle the bottom one is turned off. And there goes the second bottom one. And you can of course use an intermediate level by using those crop plots as I showed earlier. That top plant wasn't protected so it was destroyed, but the middle ones are. The giga will eventually bite through the crop plots there. And this one's just a bit more insanity that I built next to it. Anyway, so that's the totem pole finished. So I'll give a quick rundown of the other floating structures of the similar type. Pillar on the side, lower snap point, pillar in the centre, lower snap point, so we're lowering the foundation 2 times. So this is how to create a gap between walls. We've done this before when I made the video titled Top 4 Sniper Towers. And build a wall down from the ceiling. So as long as the gap's only 2 levels difference, it'll stay there. So as I said, we've already looked at this before in the Top 4 Sniper Tower video. Go watch that video if you want to know a few different ways of doing that. Okay, next one, the new tech bridges. You can't bridge a large gap, it won't go over there. So you build a pillar halfway. Put a ceiling on top and 2 ceilings next to it. Snap a tech bridge underneath the ceiling on either side. To snap a tech bridge you need to use 2 ceilings next to each other and it has to be thatch. Demo the pillar. And you've now got a floating bridge. So you can span long distances. Next is floating pillars. So if you place a pillar in a ceiling next to another pillar in a ceiling, there's two snap points. One's next to the pillar and one's in the ceiling itself. If it goes in the ceiling itself, it won't float there. But if it snaps next to the pillar next to it, it will float. So effectively what you're doing is placing pillars down as if they were ceilings. Check each time to make sure you got the correct snap point. If you don't get the correct snap point, hit the snap point cycling button once and then place it down. So I'll deliberately get the wrong snap point here. So that pillar was snapped to the ceiling, not the pillar next to it. And that's why it fell down. There's another floating structure off sloped walls and ceilings. So slope walls have the same snap points that a normal wall does. And you can float a normal ceiling out from a sloped ceiling. So I used this in the previous dimorpha turret video. So returning birds from the top wouldn't get obstructed from that spotting tower. Anyway, that's it guys. Sorry it took me so long to answer that question about how to make that floating ceiling that I made in the last video. I got a lot of questions about that. But anyway, at least that gave me the motivation to cover everything. So for the next video, it'll most likely be a trap. So look out for that.